Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. So let's start with the analysis for 19th of October. So here we see the Israel-Palestine, the Hamas attack, the war, it continues, and the trade blames over the hospital blast. So yesterday also we were talking about, when we were specifically talking about the Egypt, and जो एक specific again, migration point है जहाँ पे Egypt is blocking the restriction, the movement. So we are seeing कि the people they are not left to go to any safer territory. उनकी human rights violation की बात करें, their life is at risk. They're not having food, they're not having the healthcare facilities available, and direct you can see hospitals they are being blasted off. People are dying. So even they're not available with potable water. So we were talking about कि this is definitely violation of even the UN Convention on the Refugees when Egypt is restricting their movement, and also the Geneva Convention, the UN. So this is the current situation. Apart from this, when talk about the government, it clears the bonanza of rupees 15,000 crores for the staff. So panel hikes the MSP for the Rabi crops as well. So for this pricing decision, MSP price, so the role of Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs is important. So they basically take this decision of they provide the recommendations to the cabinet with who finally approves it. So they have increased this MSP, and right now MSP ke liye there is no legal recognition of that. So that is also, it forms one of the demands of the farmers. They want legal recognition even for the MSP. So it is right now kind of a guarantee from the union government. So herein we see putting more money into the government employees' hands amid the festive season and ahead of the key assembly polls next month. Union Cabinet have announced this much. So this is basically part of the revenue expenditure. So revenue expenditure, obviously we talk about we need to rationalize it. We need to focus more. कैसे जो revenue expenditure को हम amount save करके या उसको हम shift कैसे कर सकते हैं in form of public expenditure, because it leads to more capital formation, capital accumulation, जिसकी वजह से we see कि एक sustainable जो growth cycle है वो function करती है. But that is not the case when it comes to revenue expenditure, because revenue expenditure for the example here is increase in the salaries, or when we talk about salaries or subsidies which is provided by the government. So वो एक उसका एक short term impact रहता है, and जब हम उसकी बात करते हैं that more or less gets translated into the form of higher consumption demand. तो एक वो short term impact रहता है comparatively when we talk about the impacts of public expenditure. So additional dearness allowance that has also been provided. So this is basically to compensate for the hike or the increase in inflation, so that again जो real purchasing power है वो उस पे negative impact ना हो. So these are some of the changes or the incentives that have been announced by the center. So Rapid X, it is basically a train which offers high-speed travel and modern amenities at affordable price. So affordability becomes important, modern quality services at affordable price. So that really is what when we talk about even the good governance. So herein we will see that the operations are going to begin on this 17-kilometer stretch of Delhi-Meerut RRTS after it will be inaugurated tomorrow. And this is a part of the regional rapid transit system. So even when we talk about, creating or expanding the network of public transportation infrastructure, so that is also going to play an important role when we even talk about, how we are going to reduce the carbon emissions, or when we even specifically talk about the problem of rising air pollution or worsening air quality in the Delhi NCR region. So it is important that people, they have a shift, they move towards usage of the public transportation. So for that also, first its availability and then its affordability and accessibility, these are some important points that becomes kind of an obligation or responsible duty of the public sector.
So in the same topic, I would like to highlight the two important points, and that is that how the developers are able to identify that how to incorporate the demands of rich people so that they leave their own vehicles to commute and they travel in the public vehicles. And here is a premium launch facilities which have been there in these metro or rapid transport system. Along with that, the Accessible India campaign has also impacted this when we are seeing the special doors for the PWDs. Then we have the ambulance services, emergency kits, and also the trauma services, which is a very important thing as far as the new type of technologies are concerned, and different types of restrooms are there for women. Changing stations, we have all stations are having these facilities, wheelchair for the PWDs. So every hook and nook has been met by these kinds of development today when we are seeing, and the women are also expected to comprise 50% of the staff of all the stations. So this is definitely going to improve the women's employment in these areas.
Yes, so we are basically ensuring that there is synergy between the availability of modern services and facilities taken into account, even the availability of the basic healthcare services as well. So here we are basically trying to touch different and important dimensions through creation of modern railway facilities. So explosion of digital uncertainty. So when we talk about e-governance or the availability of different digital services, we often talk about there are certain and there are very important benefits which are associated with them. That is why it becomes, or when we talk about that, there is a need for, having these digital services. When we talk about their a last mile availability and the reach there, even reducing the cost of availability of different services, so it leads to higher efficiency, so that again we are able to save our limited and scarce financial resources that we have. And again, when we talk about even digital inclusion, in that also we have seen how we are taking different digital and e-commerce sites, and then we are seeing that how we are seeing even after the COVID-19 pandemic, we kind of saw revolution when we talk about dependence upon different e-commerce sites with specific niche and the specialization that becoming much more important and specific. But when we talk about uncertainties about the digital services, and herein firstly we'll talk about how even the artificial intelligence, when you talk about the benefits, so uncertainty is what is the actual intention behind using the artificial intelligence technology, whether we are using it ethically or not. That is one dimension, or the uncertainty around that. Then apart from this, scant understanding of the implications. When you talk about implementation of these digital services, we need to have exact and proper clarity about what are going to be the implications after the implementation of those services or the ideas and initiatives that we are thinking about. So proper implications in terms of positive and negative, and if we take into account ki kya negative implications ho sakte hain, then only after identification we also need to have a proper plan. If suppose that becomes a reality, then how are we actually going to deal with that kind of a situation? So in that, in terms of implication, how when we talk about even digital security, data security, that is very important. And ensuring key even data security ki context में personal data should not get compromised, because again that is forms a part of our fundamental right to privacy. Apart from this, we saw ki how even digital data that can be manipulated and even used for the political purposes, as we saw in the case of the data analytica case. Apart from this, we see that often repeated ki jo digital infrastructure hai, when we talk about the recent push and focus upon the digital public infrastructure specifically, herein we talk about the Jam Trinity, we talk about the Aadhaar IDs. So there also how this entire system and network of these technologies, if it gets compromised, so what can be the repercussions of that? So herein we see that it is built on different layers upon layers of omniscient machine intelligence, human coded softwares हम use करते हैं. There's undependable hardware components. So if this entire system somehow it gets compromised, if there's a cyber attack, so what is going to be the situation? What is going to be our plan of action if there is certain kind of, again, a cyber attack on the system, as we saw again in the case of the AIMS how basically a cyber attack was carried out on the healthcare services. So even पूरा जो हमारा healthcare services का ecosystem है, how that can also get impacted with such cyber attacks, which can lead to compromising with the health data of patients. So it can also result into loss of trust of the people on the government services. If there is breach of confidentiality of the data, there is loss of governance capabilities. So it can also turn into a nightmare also if things are not handled and planned properly. And we need to again focus upon the emerging technologies. When we also see deep fakes, again हमारे लिए concern है basically how उसमें डीप फेक्स में एक्चुअली होता क्या है कि सपोज देयर इज अ वीडियो, उसमें आप ऑडियो को इस तरीके से मॉड्यूल या चेंज कर सकते हो कि इट अपीयर्स कि इट इज द ऑडियो ऑफ द सेम पर्सन, बट एक्चुअली दैट हाउ वी कॉल इट टू बी अ डीप फेक. इवन आपके फेशियल रिकग्निशन के लिए थिंग्स कैन बी मॉडिफाइड एंड it can be changed that it appears to be a real picture or a real video. So how that can be even misused by the non-state actors. So this is important. So
So
touching,
Mansi, can you tell me that is there any mechanism to identify that whether this audio or video is deepfaked?
no, as of now, according to my awareness level, I don't know the exact technology that we have as of now in order to, recognize that even, the attackers are there having specialization in doing all these things. So knowing that exact technology, I'm not aware about that, but right now it is again a concern for us. So it is a kind of a risky thing. And I think we are, going ahead with
Okay,
developments or the solutions around it. So right now we
sure.
are not having exact solution for that. So Belt and Road Initiative at 10, and some hits, some misses. So let's talk about this. Third Belt and Road Forum for the International Cooperation. This was convened between 17th and 18th of October in China. So herein we see early debates around in the China around this BRI. What is again intent kya hai of China expanding this network of BRI? Again, it wants to, just as we talk about its growing assertiveness. So this is one form how China wants to increase its presence globally when we talk about the trade routes, or when we talk about different multimodal connectivity through this BRI network. So if China would be, again, it would be in a way leading to some concentration of power in the hands of China through this thing. So here we see that academic Zhu Li, he likened this BRI to China's Marshall Plan, stating that it was a gateway for China to transition from a regional power with the global influence to a global power with comprehensive strength. So this is basically, it would be furthering and complementing the strength of China as it wants to become a global power. So this is a part of it. And apart from this, a lot of money is being invested in this, where its mouth was with its establishment of the Asian Infrastructure Bank with $100 billion war chest, challenging other lending institutions at the same time. And even this is basically, यहाँ पे भी we are seeing kind of synergy between the funding from AIIB and how it is going to benefit the BRI. So even though the tale of Chinese munificence, it is marred by unsavory ground realities. All eyes will be on the future of BRI. So specifically from India's perspective, firstly, the China-Pakistan economic corridor, that is a concern for us because it leads to violation of India's sovereignty and integrity. So definitely we're not supporting even the China-Pakistan economic corridor and not even the BRI. So herein also, the same thing has been mentioned. Global alternatives kya ho sakte hai? As global alternative, recently we saw the announcement of this India, Middle East, Europe corridor as an alternative to BRI. Then we have the International Non-South Transport Corridor. And apart from this Build Back Better World initiative, it also seems to have been recognized, reorganized as a partnership with the global infrastructure and investment. So infrastructure and investment ke around ye kuch aur as alternatives and which has been suggested for BRI. So United States, Japan Infrastructure Investment Alternatives in the Indo-Pacific region, it is specifically working in that particular area. So even globally, we are seeing key different countries. Definitely, we recognize key China, how it is trying to expand its network. So we are coming up with several such initiatives so that again, हमें BRI के ऊपर ultimately rely ना होना पड़े. We have other options also, and that's how we are even trying कि कैसे जो China की rising पावर को वो इंक्रीज करना चाहता है उसको हम कैसे और डाइवर्सिफाई एंड डिवाइड कर सकते हैं through global support. So that becomes important. So India will explore building of the large language model. So this is an important topic from Science and Tech. High-powered committee firstly was study करेंगे this development for Indian languages, and large amounts of private and foreign capital plus the government funds, they are needed again for this deep tech. And so basically we're planning how we'll be going ahead with these large language models. So basically these are certain tools if we want to harness the benefits of the artificial intelligence to create applications that can understand and process the human language. So that's how basically why these large language models, they are an important cornerstone technology which is underlying several pieces of intelligent software, and that they can help make possible applications such as ChatGPT. So this is in a way it can be again risky for us also. So we need to go ahead with the regulated usage of even the implementation of these large language models with the artificial intelligence technology so that it does not overpower the human resource that we have. Apart from this, we are going ahead, we are planning with the India's draft policy document on deep tech. It cites कि जो startup India का database है, which claims कि there are around 10,300 startups which have been recognized by the Department for Promotion of Industries and Internal Trade in India. So these are classified across various subsectors within the larger deep tech space as of 2023. So even dedicated policies for these emerging technologies, that is also an important area to recognize what are the concerns and the risks associated with them and how we are going to move forward when it comes to their applications. So that's there. And important data is just to have, a clear idea about there are how many number of startups in India. So right now it is at 10,300. And apart from this, we are also seeing the rising number of even unicorns as well. So it shows key how the innovative ideas of youth, how that is turning out to be in the higher number of startups. So related to startups specifically, recently, a few days ago, we saw certain changes have been announced when it comes to taxation around the angel tax. Okay, so Ayodhya Ram Temple Trust, they have received this FCRA license to accept the foreign donations. So that is a proper, regulated and transparent and accountable process of receiving the finances, how they'll be put to use when it comes to the donations around the building of Ayodhya Ram Temple. So Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, it is being provided, is now becomes applicable to the funding, to the money that is being received by the Ayodhya Ram Temple Trust. So this is kind of a legal and legitimate process of following things. So So escalating tensions in the Gaza Strip come under sharp focus in civil war scared Sri Lanka. So when we talk about multiplier effects of this conflict, even up till Europe and how it is even, impacting Sri Lanka. So Vikram Singhe had recently called for four-state solution to resolve this crisis. So we have been talking about two-state solution between Israel and Palestine. So let's see that who are going to be the four-state parties to the solution. So, firstly, we see escalating tensions in Gaza. It has come under sharp focus in Sri Lanka, an island nation that is struggling to get out of its own devastating civil war nearly 15 years after it has ended. So, still, Sri Lanka is recovering out of the impacts. So, basically, four-state solution में जो Sri Lanka suggests कर as a part of solution to this conflict, it would be involving Israel, Gaza, Palestine, and Lebanon in order to resolve this crisis and put things to basically put this conflict to an end. So we need to be even aware about which all different countries and groups are party to this war. Coming to the business page, so this we've already seen on the front page. The Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs, they've recommended the increase of the MSP for the Rabi crops, but still the farmers, they are unhappy. So the concern about the farmers is, kitna increase kiya gaya? Is it really going to make an impact on their income or not? So that is the concern. Farmers organizations, they say कि जो MSP prices है, it is not matching with the increase in the input cost. So जो gap है, that needs to be bridged. And for wheat, जो major rabi crop है, the increase is around rupees 150 per quintal. So this has been being criticized by the farmers organizations. With the rising input cost, rising inflation, this would result in reduction in their real purchasing power as well. Because inflation is increasing, their cost of production is increasing. So when we talk about the MSP formula, as has been suggested by Dr. M.S. Swaminathan also, so we need to look into the nitty-gritties of what formula exactly has been suggested, that we need to go ahead when we are deciding the MSP. And then also we need to understand what are going to be the fiscal implications of this in terms of the fiscal deficit, the fiscal burden that would be, increased from where we are going to actually secure that additional amount that would be actually required if we are planning ahead with the implementation of that particular MSP formula. Taking up the Mint newspaper, so Supreme Court show cause on two NCLAT members for defying their orders. So when we talk about the IBC, the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code 2016, NCLAT, National Company Law Appellate Tribunal functions under that. When we talk about cases relating to liquidation or resolution of those cases. So Supreme Court Wednesday issued the show cause notice to two members of NCLT around this thing for the members for disregarding the directives जो Supreme Court ने issue किए थे. So this is basically, it leads to contempt of court. So we need to look into कौन से दो major bases होते हैं या दो possible situations when things can lead to contempt of court. Either you like go ahead with intentionally you want to do that, or if you're not doing it intentionally, so your actions or your inaction is leading to creating a barrier in delivery of justice. So these are two situations. You can go ahead with finding the exact two reasons which can lead to again the contempt of court. Taking a Financial Express newspaper, so let's look at the important topics from here. So how we can again create a gas-based economy. So we are seeing a growing city gas distribution company. One of the examples is the IRM Energy. So it is providing one of the safest, cleanest, and environmental friendly fuels for the households, for the commercial establishments and industrial units, as well as as a fuel requirement in the transport segment. So these are some of the areas where we can use the natural gas. So we need to look in for firstly the domestic reliance or having that adequate amount of supply of the natural gas, which are all of the countries. When we talk about from where we are actually importing natural gas, where can we actually export them? If we are able to have that sufficient amount, we are able to produce it domestically. So that is there. And apart from this, we are having the Tapi gas pipeline example. So that is there.
So I think in the gas-based economy, as you said, how to increase the production. So we need to increase the active participation of the corporate sector into the development and into the production, then into the supply also. Then apart from that, we have some bottlenecks in the supplies, that logistic cost is very high. So we should use some technological advancements to lay friend financial less financial costly pipelines, and so that we can spread a gas based pipeline to a large area. Apart from that, we have some prominent PSUs working in this sector, like we have ONGC and then we have GAIL. So their capacity should be very much robust, and their functioning should be very much transparent, so as to have a what we can do is we can use RTI and social audit mechanisms, so that we can able to know that what are the current potential, and along with that, proper R&D should be done in unexplored areas. For an example, recently we have seen that how across various places in India we are seeing the um, opportunities for the gas based production, so we should try to thrive for them. And these are some common measures so as to increase the gas supply.
Okay, and we can also, like we need to first also know about basic things around natural gas. What is the chemical composition of that? What are the raw materials which are required? And apart from this, we can also learn from the model of which is functioning in the Delhi NCR region when we talk about the density of even these gas stations which are available. So this can be implemented across different states in India also, when we specifically talk about increasing this as a fuel for the transportation so as to meet our carbon neutral goal by 2070. So we are seeing delays in India-UK free trade agreement talks. Key issues is contentious topics include access for the Indian skilled professionals, sectors like IT and healthcare in case of UK. So these are like, we're not going into the specificity of this. And even when we're talking about the gas-based economy, so the policies help and NELP, we need to go into what are the features, and then we can also get to identify what are the problem areas and what can be then other possible solutions apart from the ones that have been recently mentioned by Pravesh. So even regulatory structures are crucial for the solar energy push. So our vision is to foster the environments conducive to attracting the investments and ensuring ample energy availability to meeting surging global demands, specifically the energy demands. So India, one of the initiatives is International Solar Alliance. So we need to have proper regulatory structure hona chahiye in terms of the generation, the transmission of the power are required to spur the sector's growth. So clarity is very important. When we talk about growth, investment in clean energy has seen a 12% annual growth rate since 2020. So this has been increasing. Objective of the International Solar Alliance, which consists of 109 member countries, is to facilitate energy transition at the global level, ensure energy security at the national level, and energy access at the local level. So these are quite specific and important phrases: energy transition, energy security, and energy access. So that's there. And apart from this, yesterday we were talking about that government is plans to almost double the public expenditure. Major part of it is going to be for the energy transition. So that's there. Apart from this, when we talk about specifically the solar energy, so the concerns around that, although we are seeing that the cost is reducing when we talk about the solar panels, the photovoltaic cells, the cost has been reducing, but still it is at a higher level. So that's there. And again, how we can go ahead with reducing the import dependence, specifically when it comes to importing the technology that is important for solar energy push. So as of now, we're dependent upon China for the imports. So supply chain diversification is important, and manufacturing of the solar panels domestically is an important area. So how we can again use the PLI scheme over here, that is an important thing, and we can again see some benefits through that as well. So it's important to review open-ended grain procurement. So यहाँ पे जो main challenge होगा, the limited amount of storage facilities that we have. So we can't go with open-ended grain procurement. Instead, when we see that government is thinking about going with this option, the main reason is again farmers have the limited options of selling their harvest or their produce. So farmers के लिए हम कैसे और बाकी alternatives ensure कर सकते हैं? So therein we are having the national agriculture market, where that is also growing, the network is also growing. We are seeing कि farmers also are taking advantage of that. So उसको और कैसे हम fast pace में implement कर सकते हैं और कैसे ज़्यादा farmers तक उसकी availability reach कर सकते हैं, so that farmers also have the clarity कि उसको use, उस technology platform को use करके उनको कैसे फायदा होगा. So that can be looked into कि again pan India level पे farmers different markets में easily कैसे sell कर सकते हैं. So that's important. So the Commission for Agricultural Cost and Prices, they have called for the review of the government's open-ended grain procurement policy to restrict the rice and wheat purchase from the farmers under this Act of National Food Security Act. So herein again, जब government इसको open-endedly इसको procure करेगी, तो firstly the challenge which I mentioned is storage. Having limited storage facilities is one of the challenge. If we continue with this thing, so food wastage is going to increase. Again, that is going to have repercussions for food security. So these are some of the important points around this policy step. So accumulation of huge stocks, we already having sufficient amount of surplus food grains, which distorts the cropping pattern and also leads to over-exploitation of the groundwater also. So when government announces such measures, it will be going ahead with the open-ended grain procurements, so farmers भी ज्यादा नहीं सोचते कि और कौन से बेटर क्रॉप्स वो ग्रो कर सकते हैं, बिकॉज कहीं ना कहीं दे हैव दिस मेंटल सेटिस्फैक्शन या मेंटल अश्योरेंस कि गवर्नमेंट तो एंड में खरीद ही लेगी. सो दैट इज व्हाई ये क्रॉपिंग पैटर्न को भी डिस्टॉर्ट करता है, एंड अल्टीमेटली सिंस दीज आर वाटर इंटेंसिव क्रॉप्स, सो इट इज ऑल्सो इम्पैक्टिंग दी groundwater availability. It is leading to water stress. It is also ultimately impacting the soil fertility also when you are again and again you are just going ahead with the cultivation of the same crop. Okay, now we can continue with the Indian Express newspaper in part 2 of this video.